Hello and welcome to day 54 in this quest for a 2000 rapid chess rating on chess.com. Alright, let's find an opponent. Okay, we have the black pieces and let's see how they begin. So e4 will respond with e5, taking an equal share of the center. So they attack our pawn, we'll defend. And now the Ruy Lopez. So let's attack the bishop. And they retreat. So we'll go ahead and develop our knight here. And a castle. So let's go ahead and develop the bishop. Alright. So now we'll go ahead and protect the central pawn here. Alright, so they just decide to give up their bishop pair. Now that pulls our pawn towards the center here. Okay, so now they're attacking. Should we go ahead and pin this knight with our bishop? Or do we capture here? Alright, we probably don't want to give up the bishop pair. Let's see, but we have to do something about this attack in the center. So, let's see. Alright, do we just capture here? That's a possibility. Or do we ignore that and just develop here, pinning this knight? All right. Capture the pawn, or just ignore, develop. He could attack us. We would have to capture here. We don't want to give up our bishop pair, so I guess we're attacking here. All right, now the queen is under attack. So we could attack that queen. Maybe we go ahead and do that. Just attack the queen. Alright, so he decides to move there. Do we just go ahead and castle here? Possibly. Or do we attack this pawn? Or should we just develop? We probably need to castle, so we'll go ahead and do that, get our king safe. Alright, now here we could attack his queen. Do we want to go ahead and do that or not? Attack the queen. That is a possibility. Attack that queen. That might be the best thing to do here. Go ahead and attack his queen. Then we can maybe develop our bishop here, lining up on his king side, protecting our knight. Now he'll probably attack our knight with his queen, but where would be best? Does he just move here? Okay, so now we can go ahead, develop our bishop and line it up on his queen, I think. Just go ahead and do that. All right, so now do we just go ahead and we have a discovered attack on his queen. Will that get us anything? We probably need to just capture here. Now, he may just attack our bishop here, but we would have... okay, well that's interesting. I guess we should attack his queen again. So we'll retreat back, attack his queen. Or do we jump our knight forward? Threaten to fork. He's protected. We'll just go back here to help defend our king side. Attack his queen again. All right. Now, what should we try next? All right. All right. His threat is to jump his knight forward. You know, maybe lining up here, but right now our knight is guarding that. So first he would probably bring his bishop up here, maybe to pin this knight to my queen. You know, if we go here, he could capture, sacrificing his bishop. We capture, his queen captures, getting ready to jump his knight in there. But I guess we could block with our queen. All right. Let's see. We do have this good, strong bishop pair here. All right, what can we do here? What can we do? Do we bring this up to keep... You know, if I push this pawn forward, he could sacrifice here. So if he sacrifices, then if we capture, his queen captures. Do we bring our knight down here to block? That is a possibility. Because then he's going to threaten to jump his knight in and attack our bishop. All right. Well, do we have anything better? You know, should we be developing our queen? We'll go there. Let's see if he decides to sacrifice the bishop. All right. Okay, so he just develops his other knight. So now, should we attack his queen? Should we go ahead and just attack his queen? That's the question. If we attack his queen with ours, if he captures, we just, I don't know, recapture with a rook. All right, all right. We'll go there, attack his queen. You know, what will the queen do now? So the queen is under attack. I guess the queen could move here. Let's see, if the queen moves here, then what do we do? I guess we could attack again, but the bishop could capture us. We would capture. We probably, well, if the queen goes here, we need to capture this knight. All right, all right. Well, if the queen goes there, I mean, I guess we could move our knight back and attack him again. All right, well, at least they're burning some time up now trying to decide what to do. So, the options are he captures here. You know, our bishop captures. Well, yeah, he could capture there. Let's see. If he captures, we capture him, he captures, then we recapture. That knight jumps in after our bishop. All right. Well, we're just hanging in there for now. Let's see. Thinking, you know, does he ignore this? He probably wants to keep his attack going, so he'll probably move his queen. You know, maybe he moves his queen here to h5. Then what? Do we move back and attack his queen again? You know, and then what does he do? He's probably really checking out his attack options. I mean, what if he does something crazy? If he attacks with his rook, then we just go after his queen. Then after he recaptures, we recapture. You know, something like that. What else? You know, will he? He won't attack with his bishop, I wouldn't think, here, because then we just pick his queen off, then we pick off the bishop. So, He may just capture my queen and get rid of queens. At least that relieves some of the attacking pressure. All right. Well, it's really taken a while to figure this one out. Although, once again, I had one move that took me 1 minute and 35 seconds, another one that was 47, 2 minutes and 49. That was a long one just to play h6, and then 52 seconds on my last one. So he's still got a lot more time than me. All right, we have the bishop pair. His goal should be to try and knock out one of my bishops at some point, especially with a pretty open position. He could exchange queens here, but I don't know if he'll do that, since he kind of has an attack going. And if he exchanged queens, that would just help us develop another rook. Which rook should we go for? Maybe this rook here, pull it into d8, because the rook on f8 probably needs to go to e8 to fight for control of this open file here. So if he captures, our rook on a8 will recapture. He could capture the knight next, or instead he may threaten to jump over here and attack our jump over here to e4 and attack our bishop, trying to get rid of our bishop pair. And then maybe we could possibly jump up to b4, threaten a fork here on c2 of both his rooks, but I guess he could jump here. Well, let's see what he decides to do. And he's really taking a long time now. I have more time on the clock, so I don't know what maybe he's really thinking about sacrificing his bishop. So if he sacrifices his bishop on h6 here, well then, we just capture. He captures. Well, no. If he sacrifices his bishop, first we want to take his queen, and then we would capture his bishop. So, that wouldn't work. What would his other option be? I'm thinking he's just going to move his queen up here to h5. If he does that, that puts pressure on my knight. I guess I could just jump back down here and attack his queen. Then what does the queen do? Queen's kind of stuck and would have to move right back where she is. And then I could threaten to repeat the position by... Okay, so we have this move. Interesting. Well, I'm thinking now I should just knock out this knight and break his pawns up here. And maybe that would be best. Just double his pawns up and break his pawns apart. But then that could leave an open file for his rook to come down here. All right. Well, looks like I should just bring my queen up next then. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, knock that out, break up his pawns. Then then what? We just go here, attacking this unprotected pawn. So that's a possibility. Just go there. Now we're attacking the unprotected pawn. He'll probably line his bishop up there. Then we could possibly move, and just attack his queen. So that might work. Okay, now why would he do that? Now we could pick this off. But first, I don't know, maybe we just pick that off right away. He's offering a draw. I don't know if I should draw because, okay, do I go after this pawn? Do I go after the pawn? Do I go after the pawn here? Looks like a free pawn. What is he threatening? We just pick that off. Then we could attack his queen. All right, now I have to watch out. If he decides to sacrifice here and I capture, well then what can he do? All right, anyway, we're going to go after, if this moves, go after that pawn. And we'll see what he decides to do here. All right. Well, now he's attacking us. So should we just go here next? Just retreat back. That looks like the thing to do. Just go back and defend. All right, so if we go back and defend, because he's piling up on this H-pawn, he could sacrifice his bishop. If we defend, if we go there and defend, he could capture us and then pick that off. So what do we have that's better? Just pick off another pawn, I guess. Pick off another pawn. Then if he captures there, we can come in and block with our queen. Oh, but then this will be unprotected. So, all right, well, anyway, we can come down here and block with our queen. So that works. Should we go after... let's see. Maybe we develop our rook to the open file. Something like that. Or we just go here, threaten to attack his queen. I don't know if I like that. I don't want to do that. Maybe just put the rook on the open file. Put the rook on the open file. Or should we put it here? All right, if he sacrifices the bishop, boom, taking here, we capture, his queen captures, the knight is threatening to jump in here. All right, let's do that. Just go ahead and do that. All right, so he presses forward. Interesting move there. Do we go after his knight now? We could just go after that knight. Go after the knight, which is unprotected. Or do we just go here, then threaten to trade off pieces? But he could just protect there. He could protect. Then what do? We go here. Or do we just pick off another pawn over here? And we're running out of time. So I'm going to say capture that pawn. Then we can swing back here and defend. All right, now we can just go here and pin that. All right, so now do we just block? We could just push this forward and then he can't move that pawn, or do we just capture and then I'm going to go forward and then bring my bishop up here and attack. Attack his knight. Okay. We'll just go there, attacking the knight. Well, now that he's done that, we can just pick off this knight over here that's unprotected. All right, well, we do have a check there. So check. Does that do anything? We might as well capture. So they resign. They're just behind in material here. All right, yeah, so we're just up a full bishop. And if they trade off, we just recapture. But now their king is kind of stuck here. If we check there, I don't see much of what we could do, but Anyway, let's take a look at the game review and we'll see what we both could have done better here. All right, game review. So they played at 81.4. Oh man, I played at 93.6. So anytime I play in the 90s, I'm okay with that. It looks like I had one inaccuracy, so we'll see what that is. They had 3 inaccuracies and 1 mistake. And it looks like the game was pretty even, and then we got a slight edge and just held that edge until we built up our advantage. So let's see what the computer finds here. Okay. Man, it's really blasting through these moves without giving me a lot of time to look at them. Anyway, we'll look at the analysis afterwards here and dig a little bit deeper. All right, so it was a good idea to pick off that pawn, just grab more material. And then we just grabbed a knight there. So it says bishop takes f3 is excellent. You captured a free knight. And now it says you really outplayed your opponent in that one. Both of you played an amazing opening. You overpowered your opponent in the middle game. So they played at an 1800 level. And it looks like, yeah, I'll take that, 2250. I don't know how accurate that is, but, it's better than my average game. So I'll definitely take that. My opponent played 100% opening accuracy, and so did I, so that's interesting. I guess I played that opening okay. And then the middle game, they played 72.1, and we played 91.3. All right, so let's take a look at the analysis from the beginning and see what the inaccuracies were and the one mistake I think my opponent had. All right, so the Ruy Lopez, e4, e5, knight to f3. He attacks our pawn, we defend it. Then he attacks the knight, putting more pressure on this knight, which is defending our e-pawn. Now, if he took that and we just recaptured, and we'd probably recapture away from the center to keep all our pawns together. And then if he captured this pawn, well, then our queen could just move up here, attacking the knight and picking off, getting our pawn back. And that would be the exchange variation, I believe, of the Ruy Lopez. But, we're not getting into that. So we play the normal, I guess this is called the Morphy defense. So maybe Paul Morphy was the one who came up with this or first started playing it regularly. You put the question to the bishop of whether he's going to capture or retreat. And normally they'll retreat because they want to keep the bishop pair. And this light squared bishop is usually a strong attacker in the Ruy Lopez. A lot of times it'll line up here on b3 and on this diagonal aiming at the f pawn, or sometimes maybe even a retreat back to c2, maybe where it can eye and protect your central pawn and then aim at the king side. So knight to f6 is played, just developing a piece, attacking this unprotected pawn. They just castle. Now, we could go ahead and capture this pawn, but that would kind of open things up quickly, and I'm not castled yet, so I'm kind of hesitant to play that. Instead, I want to develop my bishop and get ready to castle to safety. But my opponent, once they play this, now this pawn is protected, and there is a chance of them picking off my knight and capturing this pawn and going a pawn ahead, and I wouldn't be able to recapture their pawn because now it's protected by the rook. So I have to go ahead and protect my pawn. So here they give up their bishop pair. So what is this? The Morphy defense closed variation, the Averbach variation, I guess. So this is kind of, maybe like a delayed exchange variation, maybe. I don't know. Probably, it's still a book move, but I don't know if it's the best. Let's go back here. Well, it's showing it's the second best move to just go ahead and give up your bishop, break my pawns apart. So now I do have this extra pawn which helps fortify the center. And I have this weak isolated A pawn, which didn't come into play in the game because we didn't get down into an end game. So immediately they capture here. So is that best? And we're still in book moves. So it looks like d4 or even knight to a3. That looks a little strange, moving your knight there. Anyway, d4, a book move, putting both your pawns in the center, threatening to capture. And then if you recapture, they could take your queen, and then they could pick this pawn off. So, you have to do something about this immediately. And it looks like just capturing the pawn is best. So now the queen captures, but it looks like it would have been better to capture with the knight, which is what I thought was going to happen. Because if they capture with the knight, what do you do then? That knight is pretty active there. It could try and jump up here, attacking our bishop and this pawn. The knight is threatening to capture this pawn, after it recaptures on d4. So, what would we do? Maybe move forward here and protect the pawn. So in the game, the queen captures, and I was a little surprised by that, and maybe that's why they played that, for the surprise factor. All right, so now castling is the best move, but we don't do that. I played c4, attacking his queen, or c5, excuse me, c5, and it looks like that's the second best move, and it kind of swings the game slightly in white's favor, but not much. It's still pretty even, although here it's saying it's a quarter of a pawn's worth, so that's a bigger deal. Looks like I should have just castled immediately. All right, but I wanted to get some kind of attack going on the queen, because I was thinking that, well, what will they do next? Push this pawn forward, try and break the center open, attacking my knight, and the queen is lined up. If my knight tries to move, this pawn's under attack. So I'd probably have to capture with this pawn, breaking my pawns apart, leaving me with these two isolated doubled pawns. So I didn't want all that weakness, so I tried to at least get some counterplay on his queen. So queen to d3 or c4 both look good, but he plays c3, and now black has a slight edge here. And it looks like a5 is the best move, or castling, and I think castling is what we did. So we castled, now it's saying that's best. And here, what did my opponent do? Play e5. And it looks like that is probably what, an inaccuracy. Queen to d3 is better. So d3 helps fortify this pawn, lines up on our queen, preparing to exchange queens. Now, what, rook to e8 is best? Or bishop to b7. Adding pressure to this pawn. Let's see here. If we play that, the computer's thinking maybe it doesn't think this is best. It did say that's best. Help getting ready to fight for this file, which is probably going to be opened after a push of this pawn. So, let's see here. In the game, my opponent played e5, and the computer says that's an inaccuracy, swinging the game to 0.6 in black's favor. So now our knight's under attack, our pawn's under attack. What do we do here? It looks like knight to d5 is the best move. And did we find that? Okay, we did find knight to d5. Jumping our knight into the center, attacking the queen. So what do they do here? Queen to d2 is best. Queen to c4 is second best. So queen to c4, attacking my unprotected knight. And now it recommends either knight to b4, attacking the queen, bishop to b7, protecting the knight, or even bishop to e6, which is what we played. And it likes that best because now we have a discovered attack. We could move this knight out of the way and threaten to capture the queen. But is there any way to get an advantage by doing that? I don't know. I just don't see anywhere that we could go. To try and get some kind of attack. Maybe knight to b5 at some point. If we could threaten this fork here, but I don't know if that would work. So now, what did we have? E takes d6, but looks like knight to a3 is the move the computer wants. Which I guess that protects this pawn here in case black tries to fork the rooks by capturing on c2. But I don't know. Usually you don't want to put a knight on the edge of the board where it has less options on where to move next. Queen to e2 is another recommendation. So my opponent captures, and now it's saying moving this pawn just up here to a3 to keep the knight from being able to move forward. All right, well, now we capture. Although, strangely enough, the computer wanted us to undouble our pawns, but I thought bishop capturing would centralize my bishop a little bit more and aim it at the queen side. So it looks like the computer prefers, well, even here now, the computer's saying it's best to capture with the bishop. So we captured with the bishop. My opponent plays queen to e4, getting out of that discovered attack by this bishop. So keeping the queen centralized, although knight to c3 is what the computer likes, just developing that knight. So now we have knight to f6, our one inaccuracy. So it looks like rook to e8 would have been best. just lining up on the queen. All right. Now, looks like the computer wanted queen to d7 instead, which would protect this bishop if it has to move. But once again, now it's saying rook to e8 is best. So the computer, I guess, gets confused sometimes and is not sure what is best. So you're moving the rook instead to line up on the queen. That looks pretty strong. All right. Well, if that happens, then we have a possible knight jumping here, threatening a mate. We could retreat back and attack the queen. And then maybe retreat this bishop back, attacking the queen. But anyway, in the game, we just retreated back immediately, and the computer says that's an inaccuracy. It also now is saying h6 would have been, excuse me, h6 would have been better to stop the knight from moving in here and attacking. All right. The queen moves over, threatening to try and attack here on the king side, wanting to jump this in, trying to, well, he would probably have to move his bishop here first, try and knock out my knight. So, once again, well, now it wants this, knight to d5. Okay, but we just keep developing pieces here. He brings his knight out finally, although it likes this c4 move, which gains space on the queen side and kind of limits my pieces and prevents them from moving up to d5 here. So here I'm able to jump in, attack his knight. He centralizes his queen, and that is a mistake. So why is that a mistake? I guess it lets me capture his knight and break his pawns apart. That's one reason. So let's see what he should have done here. The best move, looks like, would be to go ahead and capture the queen. Then we should capture towards the center with this rook that was on, well, now it's saying the other rook, but I don't know. I would probably want to bring this rook here to e8 to fight for control of this e file. And now we have knight captures, bishop captures, and black is slightly ahead here, but the game is definitely more drawish now. What is it saying? h3 is best? I mean, I guess that gives a little escape hole for your, well, no, because this bishop is covering that. Okay, well, maybe it's to get ready to push pawns forward. So now f6 is the best move. All right, well, I guess that keeps the knight from being able to jump forward, and it gives our king some space to move up here and kind of get into the action towards the center of the board, because remember, you have to activate your king at the end, in the end game, especially once the queens are off the board, as long as your king's safe. Okay, back to queen to e4. That was a mistake. The best move now is to capture the knight and break apart his pawns on the queen side, which is what we do. Now we have queen to f6 being the best move, and looks like I found that. So we're attacking this pawn. I thought he was going to develop bishop here. Well, I don't know. I guess if he did that, we could just attack it here with our rook. So now it's showing knight to e5 is best. Just jumping up here. Jumping that knight right up into black's side of the board. Bishop to d2 is also, that's the second best move. And my opponent instead plays bishop to e3. So it would have been better to defend that pawn. So now the best move is not to capture that pawn, which is what I did. It looks like bringing the rook to d8 or the f rook to d8 or even to e8, lining up on the queen. So instead we pick off this pawn. It says that's still an excellent move, and we're ahead by almost 2 points here. Even though we're ahead 1 pawn, we're ahead the equivalent of almost 2 pieces of 2 pawns worth of material. Now here it's saying instead we should have attacked the queen back here with our bishop. Just attack the queen. Man, then we could maybe pick this pawn off. Let's see. All right, anyway, we didn't do that. We captured the pawn. And then my opponent plays queen to h4, but that is an inaccuracy. Bishop to f4 would be his best move to try and get rid of my bishop pair. And then here, rook at f to d8. Rook at f to d8. It likes this move the best because then we could undouble our pawns and get ready to march our pawn forward, where it'll be protected by our bishop and our rook back here. So now it's saying a3 is the best move. All right, but anyway, queen to h4 is played. That's an inaccuracy. Now our best move is rook at a to b8. Instead, we move to e8 here, and now the computer says that's best. But I wanted to start activating my rooks, and that's important in the endgame, is to get those rooks active. So g4 is played next, but queen to e4 is better. Oh man. Yeah, that doesn't look too good. Queen to e4 just lines you right up. Lines you right up on the rook. A discovered attack. This bishop could maybe move out of the way and attack the queen. All right. Well, other option is queen to a4. Let's see what it says after this crazy move, which lines you up for a discovered attack. And now the computer's saying that that's not best. That better would have been to go all the way over here. Maybe attack this pawn so we can't activate our rook over to b8 here. And lining up on our rook back here. So if this file opened up, there could be a threat of capture, recapture, and then the queen could capture here. All right, so here, bishop to d5 would be best, threatening to capture the knight and break apart the king side maybe, or just opening up our rook here. All right. In the game, what did we have? g4, pushing this pawn, an inaccuracy. And now the game really jumps in black's favor to 4.5 pawns worth of material here, even though we're only ahead by 1 pawn. So the best option is to just snatch up this pawn on c2, which is what we did. My opponent just pushes forward trying to get an attack going. But rook at A to C1, attacking our queen, would have been better. Attacking our queen would have been better. So if they did that, well, then what do? He's threatening to pick off this pawn and maybe trade the bishops. We should just go ahead and snatch up this pawn here. So that, and then we have this passed pawn for the endgame, which is going to be a problem for white. All right, back to the game. G5 is played. So the best move here is to ignore that. Oh man, the best move is to just go ahead and ignore that. That's a computer decision there, because an average person, when you see a pawn marching here, getting ready to break open your king side with a queen, a knight, bishop, all hovering around here, that's a difficult decision to just ignore that. But it's saying rook at A to B8 would be better. And it says that's best by quite a bit. So let's take a look. So here it's saying A3 would be a better move. So what if... Oh, I guess if they... Well, let's take a look at it. If they go ahead and do that, man, now our best move is rook to B4, attacking the queen. What does the queen do? I would think go here maybe, but then we could move down here and pin the queen and trade, I guess. Best move is to play bishop to D4. What? Just giving your bishop up for the pawn? Okay. Oh, the queen can't go here because then we have rook checking, forking the king and queen if the queen goes to G5. Man, the queen is under attack. Where does this queen go? Is the queen just pretty much running out of options? Oh man. And if you go here, the bishop could jump up here, forking the queen and the knight. Yeah, that's tough to see. That's an interesting computer line that was pretty hard to see. So in the game after G5, I retreat back, pinning the pawn to the king. And it says this is still an excellent move, and black's ahead by 4.43 here. So my opponent gets out of that line, but the game jumps up even more in black's favor there. Looks like the best move would have been bishop. Bishop to D2. Bishop to D2. Then bishop to D5, attacking the unprotected knight. And now queen to G4. I guess you move out of the way and threaten to jump. Well, you protect your knight there and threaten to jump that knight here. But, white is just, or excuse me, black is just ahead here. All right, back to the game. So we retreat our queen back. They move their king off the line of our queen. Here, the best thing to do is just put a rook on the open file. But instead, we push forward to try and close things up here. And now, let's see. They line up here with the bishop and the rook piling up on this pawn. The best move would have been to retreat the knight back. So once again, our best move now is to put the rook on the open file. Instead, well, now it's saying this is the best move. We jump up here, protecting this pawn, attacking the knight. The best move is knight to g1. But my opponent plays bishop takes c5 here. So knight to g1. It's saying that's best. Although now it's saying knight to d2 would have been better. So knight to d2. All right. Knight to d2. Let's see. Yep, it says that's the best move. And then we should play queen to d3. Jumping into, well, with check. Queen to d3 check. King has to go where? To g1. Rook takes e3. Wow, that's crazy. Rook takes e3. Oh, but then we get the knight. So that's an interesting move. Cap this little tactic. Then if they capture here, well then now we capture the knight and we have the other rook under attack. Better is to double your rooks. But now we have what? Queen to d5. I guess there's a threat of attacking the rook here and then picking this pawn off. But we have this with the attack. Now what? Bishop to f3. Oh, that's interesting. And then they want the rook to capture. All right, well, before I get too much, into some crazy sidelines like I usually do, let's go ahead and finish this out. So we just pick off a knight here. Now we're just ahead by +4, a knight and a pawn. So they capture, we capture. They pick, well, nope, they resigned after that last move. So once we captured here, they just resigned. And the computer says the game may have continued with capture, getting rid of my bishop pair, pawn captures, and now bishop to f4, bishop to e4, so our queen was attacking our bishop. But now the computer's saying it would be better to just check the king here with the bishop. But we're still threatening a check here, and we have a battery where the bishop is protected by not only the rook, although, well, I guess that wouldn't work. If the rook goes here to e1, pinning the bishop to our rook, well, we could still move with check and then pick him off. So now the king moves over. Bishop all the way back where it's protected, threatening to bring the queen up here and go for a mate in 1 on g2. So pawn moves forward. Oh, and they don't move the queen up here to trade off queens. Which, yeah, I don't know if you'd want to do that because this rook would get in here and pick off one of these pawns. Oh, no, I guess you can't because of our bishop. All right. Anyway, at this point, we would just be ahead. Maybe after they did this, I don't know. Maybe I would do this instead, threatening a mate. Although it doesn't like this because after capture, we have bishop captures. Rook to c3, but we're just ahead a bishop here. We're just ahead in material, and we have this passed pawn in the center. All right. Well, I'll end it there. An interesting game. My opponent just had a few more inaccuracies and one mistake. But it looks like we've jumped back up to 1617. So trying to reach 1625, and then from there, go to 1650. Just see how far we can go, and hopefully, get closer to 2000. All right. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Feel free to leave comments, suggestions, or any requests if there's something you want to see specifically, because I do other instructional videos on top of this Quest for 2000 series. All right. Well, thank you for watching and have a super chess day.